Two economic realities in the U.S. right now. Wall Street is surging.
We got it. All-time high for the S&P.
The Nasdaq looking to extend those record gains.
But on Main Street, the economy is spiraling.
For us, it's been a lot of stress.
It's not getting better, it's getting worse.
It's not getting better. It's not getting better. It's getting worse. That is a common statement that you hear from many average Americans and small business owners. There definitely is a disconnect between what's happening in Wall Street and the devastation that most people are feeling in this country. And unfortunately, there's still no agreement in Congress in regard to the next round of stimulus to help pull Americans out of this financial devastation. Now, the unemployment rate is still incredibly high. The unemployment rate is at 10.2% specifically. And according to the Labor Department, new applications for unemployment benefits, which is a rough gauge of layoffs, climbed to 1.11 million from 971,000 in the prior week. So in 1 week, more than 1 million Americans filed for unemployment. So the numbers, unfortunately, look like they were starting to get a little better, but last week, more people had filed for unemployment, which reversed some of the gains. So the early peak during the Great Recession, by the way, just to give you an idea, was at 665,000 people filing for unemployment. And that can, give you a good comparison of how bad the situation is right now, even compared to the Great Recession. So 100,000 small businesses have closed. Most of the jobs that have come back are jobs for people who are high earners. But low wage jobs are still the ones that are impacted the most. These are people who, couldn't even afford a $400 emergency, let alone getting laid off for months. And since Congress has refused to negotiate and provide some economic relief for Americans, more and more states are looking to rely on the measly, stimulus that Donald Trump tried to pass through his executive order. So, for instance, according to the New York Times, 11 states have been approved for a federal emergency management agency program that will give unemployed workers an additional $300 in weekly benefits. Let me remind you all that the more robust unemployment benefits previously, which have expired, were $600 a week. Acting on an August 8th memorandum from President Trump, the federal agency said it had approved Arizona, Colorado, Idaho, Iowa, Louisiana, Maryland, Missouri, Montana, New Mexico, Oklahoma, and Utah for access to 3 weeks, just 3 weeks of the additional funds. So I have more for you, Cenk, especially when it comes to some of the numbers involving the wealthy, but this isn't looking so good.
So guys, there's two pieces of really bad news that comes out of all of this. One is about how large corporations are going to do a wholesale takeover of this economy and how devastating it is to everything, including capitalism. And then the second is about the crash, and the crash is going to be horrific. So first, I'm gonna go to a legendary capitalist, Mohamed El-Arian. He was the CEO of investment powerhouse PIMCO. There isn't anybody on Wall Street who doesn't respect that guy. He came out today and said on CNBC, if you want capitalism to be sustained, you need to buy in from a lot of people. You cannot get buy-in if it's all about large corporations. He says, and he's warning, we're giving all the money, the government is giving all the money to the large corporations. And right now in these stimulus bills, there's nothing for small corporations and they're devastated. So he's like, if you want to protect capitalism, this is not the right way to do it. He went on to say, remember what small businesses do. They're not just large employers, they're also the main way to have inclusive capitalism and an inclusive market-based system. To back up what Anna was saying about those numbers, 155,000 total business closures as of August 11th, and 59% of those are permanent, gone forever. Just look around your hometown. I went out today and more small businesses were closed, closures everywhere, okay? And so at the end of the day, the stock market is still at a record. What in the world is going on? It's because the government, both through the Treasury and the Federal Reserve, has decided to take as much taxpayer money and printed money and money that doesn't exist and give it almost all to the largest corporations in the world. This is what the new oligarchy looks like. That's what explains the stock market. In an economy in absolute shambles in reality, they're pumped up with all of this extra. They literally don't know what to do with all the money. They're like, well, we got a couple of $1 trillion. That's why we're in great shape. And we didn't do anything for it. And so the second thing that comes out of it, guys, is when that bubble bursts, it is going to be super ugly. Why is it going to burst? And by the way, I have no idea when it's going to burst. None. They just keep pumping it up and pumping it up artificially. But at the end of the day, if you don't sell burgers and you don't sell shirts and you don't sell any products, you don't have a real business, no matter how much money the government gives you. And we're gonna run out of money, and those companies are gonna collapse. And so is the stock market and the rest of the economy. So if you think this is bad, wait till you see that unreal crash that's gonna happen.
Of course, you can't time when a crash like that happens. But I mean, the Federal Reserve is willing to, bail out companies like endlessly. So I don't know, like, is it gonna crash? I mean, how far can the Federal Reserve go? I don't know what the answer to that question is, because the entire stock market is really built on this house of cards. And if you pay close enough attention, even these like top investors admit that. So for instance, one of the driving factors in the stock market doing so well is Silicon Valley. And so as the Financial Times reports, the 5 largest stocks in the S&P 500 have accounted for a quarter of the rally since the crescendo of selling in late March, raising concerns over how sustainable the rally really is. Now, one of these private banking experts spoke to the Financial Times and said the following: technology has been a real driver of the market. There is some concern over valuation in the tech sector, meaning that they're concerned that the tech sector is overvalued, basically. And look, the stock market, more importantly, is clearly not a good indicator of how the economy is doing for the vast majority of people in the country. The vast majority of the people in the country are either hanging on by a thread or have already lost their jobs and have failed to find a new one for the last 5 months. It's a disaster. And so what are the wealthy doing? What are they doing to, maybe contribute more to society, maybe find some solutions? No, they're finding ways to try to escape it. And so there was this fascinating piece in CNBC about how the rich in Manhattan have decided to essentially move to the Hamptons for good. And what they're doing is commuting to Manhattan using these private helicopters just so they can let me just check in with my job here or there, or check in with the school that my kid goes to. So the name of the company is Blade. Blade, the chopper and mobility company, announced a special Hamptons commuter pass last week, offering daily helicopter flights between the Hamptons and New York City. For a one-time membership of $965, customers can get flights over $295 each way. Typically, the flights cost $795, so what a deal. And Blade September promotions sold out of all 250 spots in less than 24 hours. I mention that because there's like this new, culture of fleeing densely populated parts of the country that are really getting hit hard by coronavirus, and essentially, living in your moat surrounded home, not having to worry about all the pain and suffering around you. It's pretty incredible.
So it's nearly Elysium. They're in the air, they float above us. And I want you to wrap your head around those numbers. It's $295 one way. So just to commute to work, they pay $600 without blinking. It's sold out immediately. They're like, oh, I want a deal, right? So they have their mansion in the Hamptons. They helicopter into New York for work, $600 round trip. Look, the $6 that it takes to get from the Antelope Valley in LA to downtown is way too much on the train, and people can't afford it. These guys pay $600 without blinking every single day to commute in by helicopter. So as the world is burning around you, they're in hog heaven. They literally float above us. And look, guys, this isn't a screed against the rich. There's of course great rich people, good rich people, terrible rich people. They're humans, just like the rest of us, right? It's the problem is when you have government capture, and it leads to crony capitalism and what I call corporatism. This isn't capitalism. This is when large corporations figure out, oh, the Supreme Court made it legal. We can literally legally bribe all of the politicians. I mean, look at Nancy Pelosi today. She's to help the oil industry. She went against a Democratic incumbent. She's like, no, that's it. My donors tell me what to do. I'm going to do it. Of course, Trump, Mitch McConnell are the kings of that. So we have a government so corrupted, they're just literally robbing us of all of our income, our wages, and now our small businesses, and handing everything off to the largest corporations that bribe them, which is a logical thing to do. For God's sake, fix the system. Wolf-pack.com/join. You got it. If it's not Wolfpack something, if you don't end the bribery, they will take everything we have and we will be their indentured servants for the rest of our lives.
Want to win a free electric scooter? Well, our partners at Aspiration and Zoom Electric are making it possible. All you have to do is head to tyt.com/greensummer for your chance to win.